Hey, how's it going, Chris? So, while my wife and I were out shopping for Thanksgiving, I found something that I found very interesting, and it's this. It's a cup of wine. Well, cuppa di vino, which apparently in Italian, if you add an extra P into the name, means cup of wine. So, I found this to be really fascinating. It's got this neat little plastic lid here. In case you need to seal it up to take it with you for later. And of course, fancy gold foil. Can't have fancy wine without fancy gold foil. It's from the Columbia Winery, which is in Oregon somewhere, I think. And they normally have pretty good wine. And for a Cabernet Sauvignon, it's pretty good considering that it's a small plastic goblet of wine. So I gotta say, your response to whether or not the draft should exist kind of surprised me. I didn't expect you, because I tend to think of you as a bit of a stereotype of a leftist, a liberal, pseudo-socialist kind of thing, to have a pro attitude toward the draft. And I kind of understand your argument. It's a little counterintuitive. I find it interesting. It's a neat idea. One thing that has bothered me over this entire Thanksgiving weekend is that I have noticed that we have replaced one myth lie of our society with another one. And I keep seeing things that talk about Thanksgiving being a day that celebrates the slaughter of the Native Americans. It's not. The exact holidays got nothing to do with that. And I'm not denying what happened. The way the European settlers came in to the New World and ravaged the Native Americans, slaughtered them by the thousands, took them as slaves, engaged in what some had to know was essentially biological warfare. I'm referring specifically to the smallpox blankets. They did that, yes. But that is not connected to the Thanksgiving holiday. The Thanksgiving feast, the first one that everybody references, is a myth. It actually did happen. Yes, it was some pilgrims and some Native Americans, and they did have a feast, and it was nothing like what we think it was. Because the pilgrims were happy they didn't freeze and starve to death over the winter, so they had a big old harvest festival, and some Native Americans wandering along because they were shooting off their guns, and the natives were like, yo, what the fuck's up? And then pilgrims were like, oh, we're having a party. And the natives were like, bet, how about we join? And the pilgrims were like, okay. And then the Native Americans brought them in 5 extra deer, because there was now a bunch more people to feed. And that was it. It was a one-off. Nobody thought anything else about it. And the people who try and cite these examples throughout history where people gave or had a day of Thanksgiving after a victory against the savages, because I actually read an article about this, and I don't doubt the historical veracity of it, that a group of Puritans slaughtered several hundred virtually unarmed, defenseless Native Americans, and then the next day had a day of Thanksgiving in honor of their victory over the savages. But the days of Thanksgiving, that idea predates the discovery of the New World. It's something that politicians and clergy would do whenever. It was just kind of a random thing. And it was Washington who originally did it in the last Thursday of November, just 'cause, and he had one just 'cause. And then Sarah Josepha Hale is the woman who actually got our modern Thanksgiving holiday a thing. She came up with a lot of the original recipes of serving turkey, of pumpkin pie, of corn, of all this other crap that we now eat in abundance. And it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln, after she was dead, maybe after she was dead, I'm not sure, that we started doing it on an annual basis. And then it wasn't until 1941 that it was actually a national holiday. So the idea that the holiday celebrates the slaughter of the Native Americans is just as much just as much a myth as the idea that it is this, yay, happy fun times, where the Pilgrims and the Native Americans got together and had a day of Thanksgiving. It bothers me because we haven't come any closer to the truth. We've merely replaced one lie with another lie. We haven't moved on from our own ignorance. We've just shifted it. And this kind of thing is everywhere. People don't want the truth. They want simple stories that they can swallow and digest without thought. It's the reason, the best reason that I can come up with for the anti-vaxxers, the people who are afraid that vaccines will harm their children, so they don't want to do it. Because it's a simple story. It's a very easy kind of this or that, one thing or the other, them versus us. And it's the same kind of thinking that we get when it comes to the Syrian refugees in a much more poignant sense. Because becoming a refugee in the United States is one of the hardest ways to come into the United States. And people are just flipping their fucking lids about the Syrian refugees. Well, we can't take them because we don't know if they'll be safe. Are you kidding me? I see the ignorance that people have, the fact that they don't want to think, and it makes me want to do something. And that's part of the reason why I became a teacher. But I don't know that I can really change all that much. I'm only ever going to teach 100 to 150 kids a year. It's only going to be a few thousand kids over my career, and I don't know if I can make as big an impact as I hope. But I gotta try, I guess. Dulce et decorum est. I'll talk to you later, man.